I want to give you guys a crazy stat that I looked at and I came up with when I look back. Okay, because my only minus when you think about this Philadelphia Eagles offense the last couple of weeks is in the second half they've been pretty dormant. Okay, against the Lions, you look at the second quarter. Look at the scorebox. In the second quarter, they scored 24 points in the second quarter alone. 24 of the entire 38 points. Week 2 against the Vikings, they scored 17 of their 24 points in the second quarter. Today, they scored all of their points in the second quarter.
They had 6 sacks, 4 minutes left in the half. They had 6 sacks, 2 strip sacks, which is typical Carson Wentz. It's like amazing that he gives it up like that. But it's interesting because the way this game started, the Commanders came out in kind of a man defensive alignment, Seth, and Jalen Hurts started off slow. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, boom, he hits the long pass to Devontae Smith, which when you look at the replay, how Washington doesn't get a challenge flag in quicker than they did after the fact. Now, they hold on that, they get the 3, but then you get the typical Carson Wentz faux pas where Brandon Graham gets the strip sack, and they get a touchdown off that on a screen pass to Goddard, and they're off and running 10-0. The one thing they didn't do was they called a foolish play there on 4th and 1. They got a little too cute with the Pascal play, or it'll be 17-0 early, but then it gets to be 17-0 later, and it's not a game anymore. You see the dominance of this team over Washington.
Well, the dominance is there. I think that, when they came out offensively today, they weren't sure what they were going to get. They come out against Detroit in week 1, and they bring the house at them right out the gate. We're going to force the issue and put the pressure on this young quarterback. He uses his legs to get away. Last week, Minnesota was scared to death of letting him out of the pocket and letting him do what he did against the Lions, so they just sat back in zone, and the kids sat in the pocket and picked him apart. They come into this game, so they don't know what to expect. Is Washington going to come after them? Are they going to sit back in zone? Which, when you go back and you look at the previous 2 games, that's what they did. They played a lot of zone. But they came into this game, and they didn't necessarily blitz him. But what they did was they played a lot of man coverage, a lot more than what he saw. And it took the coaching staff and it took him a little while to kind of figure it out. I want to give you guys a crazy stat that I looked at and I came up with when I look back, okay? Because my only minus when you think about this Philadelphia Eagles offense the last couple of weeks is in the second half they've been pretty dormant, okay? Against the Lions, you look at the second quarter. Look at the scorebox. In the second quarter, they scored 24 points in the second quarter alone. 24 of the entire 38 points. Week 2 against the Vikings, they scored 17 of their 24 points in the second quarter. Today, they scored all of their points in the second quarter. Now, that tells me that they're making an adjustment in the second quarter, but the game is like so out of reach by the time they get in the second half. They're not even looking to make a further adjustment, and they're not scoring any points in the second half at all. So that's the only part of this offense that's worrisome.
All right, and not only you're worried about that, but social media is all over that.
Right.
The Eagle fans have to find something to worry about. So it's like, well, how come they're not scoring in the second half? And I can't really answer that other than that they understand, even as pro players, Seth, and you were obviously a pro player, and you shouldn't have this mindset, but they understand that team's got nothing for them. And so that mindset goes down to maybe the way you call the game defensively in the second half, the way you think as a player.
Right.
That team is not going to threaten you today, and you know it.
Well, maybe, but in order for you to stay sharp, in my opinion, as a coaching staff, you got to put your players in a much more aggressive posture. How many games did we see last week where teams thought they had the game won with a double-digit lead going into the second half and wound up losing that game, okay? At some point in time, the Eagles are going to find themselves in that situation. And the way you protect from that, because it's hard to get off to a fast start and then pull your feet off the accelerator, and then all of a sudden think you're just going to step on it again and then just pick up. If you got a 60-second game, we're trained to play for a 60-second game. You practice to play for a 60-minute game, rather. You everything that you do is for a 60-minute game. Play for 60 minutes, and when you get to 55 and you got to pull off, then pull off.
You're not wrong, but we're sitting there watching the same game that these players are playing, and we're saying, can Carson Wentz possibly score enough points to beat this team today? I mean, seriously. And if we know that, the players also know that.
Yeah.
They had nothing for them. They weren't going to be able to forge anything offensively to outscore them.
But as a coach, as a coaching staff, the worst thing you can ever allow your team to do is to fall into this position of complacency just because you believe you have the game won. Don't do that.
Oh, I get it. We have not yet seen this team, D-Gun, really be challenged to the point where they have to have a different mindset.
Well, they were challenged in the first game, and that was just because of rust. But the last two games, absolutely not. And the one thing I really love about this Eagles offense is week to week, you don't know who the star is going to be. It's A.J. Brown one day. It was Devonta Smith today. Who knows who it could be next week? This offense is so diversified and has so many weapons. You give a defensive coordinator nightmares in trying to defend because you don't have to hone in on one or two players. They have a multitude of players, from the running backs to the tight ends to the trio of wide receivers they have. You have Quez Watkins, who can burn you at any given moment. A.J. Brown is a grown man. Plain and simple, A.J. Brown's a grown man. You can't defend him one-on-one. He kills you with the slant routes. Devonta Smith is one of the best already in just his second year, one of the best route runners in the game today. Look at the game he had today. Look at the ball he went up and got for the touchdown. That tells you exactly what you're dealing with when you're talking about dealing with this Eagles offense. I don't know how many defenses that they face on their schedule this year can come close to matching up with their offensive personnel.
And their best drive is the one they don't even score on. And that's when they were pinned down at the 6. And all of a sudden, 4 plays get them 77 yards. Bang, Sanders gets them out with a 13-yard run. A.J., with decent coverage, gets 38 on that play. And Devonta Smith, they get a first down at the 30. And in the flat, the pass goal gets them down to the 7. I mean, bang, 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 bang. Like nothing ever happened. They were pinned down, and then they weren't pinned down because they roll. They have this kind of confidence now offensively.
Well, the only thing that was a little bit worrisome today is they never really got the run game going. And you kind of felt, after the first two series, I had the inclination that they just weren't going to get it going. Those two tackles on the inside are just animals. And a lot of what they tried to do in the run game today wasn't necessarily outside off tackle so much as it was up the middle. I mean, you look at these numbers for the day, it really is just abysmal. They averaged 2.9, 2.4 yards per carry today, 30 carries for 72 yards. And Miles Sanders, hey, listen, he's only going to get 15 to 16 carries a game anyway. He was right there at 15 for the game today, 46 yards for a 3.1 yard average. I think that the running game is a big part of what they do. Yeah. And Jalen Hurts, 9 carries today. I mean, listen, moving forward, they've got to be able to run the football.
Yeah, you're right. With a 24-0 lead, you would think in the second half they'd be able to run the ball and put the game away. They really didn't attack it like that.
They were so ineffective at running the ball today that in the second half, where they really needed to salt the clock away, they actually had to throw the ball to be able to do it.
Do you realize how demoralizing it is for an offense to be negative yards passing in a game in the first half? Negative yards passing in today's offensive-minded football game.
Yeah.
And you're negative yards in the passing department. If I'm the quarterback, I'm in there screaming at everybody. Of course, the quarterback in this particular case has no right to scream at anybody because he was just as bad as everybody else he was playing with. But that just goes to show you what the Eagles were capable of doing. Now, we went into this game talking about how Washington had a trio of very good pass catchers. Well, guess what? When you don't have time to find them, they're very ineffective. That was the case on Monday night. That was the case again today because of the way the Eagles front four attacked that offensive line.
Listen, they have to continue to be pressure-minded. And when I say that, there's two different ways that you can do it, okay? You can either do it via the blitz to help when you want to go 4-man, or you can just start off on fire with great four-man pressure, and every once in a while sprinkling a blitz. The thing I'm happy about is the fact that, guess what? At least we're getting it, okay? Now, I still want to see a little more creativity on how we actually go about doing it. What you're seeing now is that they'll stay big nickel. Kazir White will be the coverage guy, and they're bringing T.J. Edwards on the delayed blitz, okay? At some point in time, let's get out of that too high safety, drop one of those safeties down, and bring Kazir White off the edge. So now we can, because teams are looking at film, okay? I always used to say, if you give me 4 game films, and this is the toughest part of the year, the first 4 games of the season, as we move forward, it's going to get more and more difficult for this offense, because the more game film I got, the more I can hone in on who you really are, what your tendencies are, what you like to do, formationally, what you like to do, by down and distance and where you are on the field. I can lock into that kind of stuff. So what I'd like to see them do is begin to self-scout now. Don't wait till the bye week.
Right.
Self-scout now,
right,
and look at what you're doing and come up with some creative alternative ways to kind of change up whatever it is you got to do to maintain the level where you are right now, both offensively and defensively. I don't know what the hell they're going to do with special teams.
Listen,
I knew he was going to bring that up.
We're looking for little things that say where they can improve. Today we were a little worried because Goddard goes out of the game. He's got a banged-up shin or whatever that is. I mean, and they didn't score in the second half. So you look at those two things as negatives coming out of here. But the drive before halftime, and we're looking at it, we're going, okay, they're comfortably ahead. you get points out of that drive. You get the field goal. They get the long pass to Devontae, and then it's 4th down. Like they're in a hurry-up situation, 4th down, and it looks like they're rushing to play. And what comes out of it is the great throw in the corner of the end zone of Devontae Smith for a touchdown. Like I said, normally teams will go, okay, let's take a breath here. Let's figure out what we want to do. Hey, hurry up. Get right to the line. They score.
On 4th and 1, though.
Yeah, so 4th and 4th goal. And they make that kind of decision because they're a confident team. And we're both looking at it and going, okay, this is where you kick a field goal. You go in 20-0. And that's not going. We're going to score a touchdown here, and they do. It's just amazing the way this team is responding offensively.
Well, that just goes to show you the utter confidence that Shane Steichen has in overall scheme. You know, it comes down to